50%. I'd say there's over a 50% chance he's a Yankee next year.
Over 50?
Yeah, I'd say over 50.
I think it'd be a bad signing. I think you guys, I think, would be handcuffing yourselves.
Well, that's the thing. And the thing with Harper, like he's probably going to get maybe even over 40 million a year, but it's not even just going to be for 10 years. It'll probably be like a 12-year deal. So I think I'm not saying. Don't get me wrong, I totally would love to see Harper in pinstripes, but is it a smart deal? I don't really think so if they sign him.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I'm skeptical of whether it's really going to be 400 because I mean we saw the weirdness of this past offseason where
that's true. I was going to say that thinking about like say before this past offseason, I would say he's going to get over 400, but I mean like with what we saw this past offseason, how cold it was, that was insane.
Teams are just getting smarter, when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Because a guy that, I mean, my audience is probably sick of me mentioning this by now, but Jay Bruce hit 36 home runs last year, 101 RBIs, and he's getting paid.
Got a 3-year deal.
Yeah, and he's going to get paid $13 million per year. I mean, is Harper, is an extra 6 or 7 home runs really worth?
It depends. It's kind of here's the difference with like the whole Harper situation compared to this past offseason, just like in deals in the past. You look at like the awful deals, like the awful long-term deals, like Jacoby Ellsbury, Robinson Cano's probably going to turn out too well. Albert Pujols, that's just an awful deal. The A-Rod's second 10-year deal, those are just awful. But think about it. Bryce Harper's going to be 26 entering this offseason, so that 10-year or 12-year deal, that'll take him to his like mid-30s to like maybe at latest probably age 38. And if you look at 10-year deals or like long-term deals that start at age 26, besides Jason Hayward, you look at A-Rod's first-year deal, and that's kind of with a talent that Bryce Harper's possibly similar to in terms of age and production. If you sign somebody to a 10-year deal at age 26, I mean, and they are like, you think that they're actually going to be worth it over at least 10 years into age 36, I mean, it couldn't be too bad of a deal.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't see Cashman pulling the trigger on that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And another thing about it, the Yankees don't really like. I'm not trying to like toot the Yankees on horn or anything, but the Yankees don't really have to sign Harper.
That's what I'm getting at. I mean, I would spend it on pitching, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I don't know, and I don't know outside of Kershaw. It was initially looking like it was going to be a huge free agency class because Harvey was in it, but he's falling off a cliff.
God.
Jose Fernandez, he's dead now, so suddenly it's not quite the deep class that it was looking like a couple of years ago, but I just think the Yankees, I think you guys are just set too good to just blow a lot of money like that, and look at it this way. If he's such a difference maker, what do the Washington Nationals have to show for him? They've never won a playoff series.
Every year in the first round, yeah.
I think coming into today or yesterday, they were a 500 team, and I don't trust the Mets to not be a clown show, for the whole year. And then
I think the Braves are going to win the division, to be honest. Well, in terms of Harper, I mean, I think Harper is kind of just like if they didn't have Stanton, I'd say it's much more likely, but like
right.
The main thing with Harper for me, the reason I always wanted him was like before 2017 for the most part, I just wanted Harper kind of like for the name, sell tickets and obviously provide the production that he provides. But like they don't really need a whole like star name. They have them pretty much all now in terms of like Judge, Sanchez, Stanton, especially Severino. So it's kind of like, and their offense is already like borderline insane. So I mean, Harper's not really that necessary.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think he's in Boston's plans at all, and.
They're saying Chicago. That Chicago's probably the main, or Philadelphia.
I can't even see Chicago at this point because, they just dumped a lot of money on Darvish. That Hayward deal is
the Hayward deal is probably going to be the worst contracted. At least Hayward provides good defense, but I mean that's up there in the top 5 worst of the decade with Ellsbury, Sandoval, and stuff.
Right, and they have John Lester for big money for at least a few more years, and then they're going to want to try to retain Rizzo, Bryant, all those guys. So everyone talks about, Chicago and how he and Chris Bryant used to be roommates and whatnot.
Oh yeah, that's probably all in the headlines.
I don't see that. I don't see Houston at this point because they're prioritizing their own guys. They're probably going to want to re-sign Keuchel if they can. Verlander's there on relatively big money.
When is Verlander's final? When is his contract end? Is it this year?
No. Like I think he's got 2 more years beyond this.
Really? Oh
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, but they're only paying $20 million of it. I think Detroit's picking up the other
of the remaining
annually. Yeah, the other $8 million each year. So the Astros are, they've got a lot of money on their books.
That's the thing. I don't really see a team that actually, now that I think about it, that you brought it up with the whole this past offseason, I don't really see it going over $400 million for Harper.
Yeah, I don't see it. And the Dodgers could, I think, they might be one of the major markets that makes a move. Maybe even Atlanta, actually, now that they're I guess, we should probably consider them at this point. And Philly has a lot of money, too. They could possibly do it. But I think he's staying in the National League for sure. So it's either Washington, Atlanta, Philly, or the Dodgers. Now, here's the thing, though. This is what's kind of screwing with my head quite a bit. We did talk about the offseason last year and how nobody got what they wanted. I mean, JD Martinez was asking for 7 at 210.
215, right? Yeah, 210.
Yeah, and he got basically half that. He got 110. And just nobody's getting that money. And Boris was the big victim. It's like, because there were talks of conspiracies and collusion and all kinds of stuff, and I don't know what to believe, but it was definitely weird. And the one interesting development since then is the reigning American League MVP, Jose Altuve, took a 5-year, $150 million deal, and that doesn't even kick in until 2020. So he's got to play out these 2 arbitration years, and then that deal kicks in. So just take that into consideration. If he got a $150 million deal on 5 years, and he's not that old either. He might be a year or 2 older than Harper. I think he's 28. How good is another general manager going to feel spending $400 when the Astros kept their guy for less than half of that?
That's the thing I'm starting to think they're going to start trending towards now with teams and players. I think it's going to be more so. I think they may get the money, but I don't think the years are really going to be there where it's like you could maybe pay a player maybe $20 million a year. I mean, I think what was it? Carlos Santana got, I think, $20 million over 3 years. I think it's going to be more contracts like that, like 5-year deals that have the money there, but not in terms of like the long year deals. If you look at like I said before, I mean, look at the Ellsbury contract. I mean, that was awful at the time. The Pablo Sandoval contract, that was awful at the time. Like stuff like contracts like that, you simply just can't sign players like that to that kind of contract. It's insane at that age, especially.
Yeah, I mean, the Sandoval contract's probably one of the worst in Red Sox history. But at the time, I mean, it didn't bother me because he was just a key bat in the World Series in 2014. Just weeks.
So if you look at his regular season stats, like the year prior, they weren't that impressive.
Yeah, I mean, he's typically just a 20 home run a year guy, and 80 to 100 RBIs, or 20 home runs and 80 to 100. Yeah, so I mean, but he, a 3-time World Series winner, one of which was an MVP in the World Series.
Yeah, he had the 3-homer game.
Yeah, I don't know. And we were hurting for offense the season before in 2014. I mean, we fell off a cliff
you guys
miserably.
Went from first to worst, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
and so I don't think it was a terrible signing, but it ended up being a terrible signing.
Yeah.
And, And the crazy thing was the Giants offered him the same deal, and he picked.
Are you serious? They offered him the same deal. Yeah.
They matched it, but
that's odd then. That is very odd. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Aubrey Hoff came out with a hit piece on him, and I guess they were shutting down Pablo's room service at night. Like the team was like forcing the hotel to not like answer his phone, to send junk up there. And
smart. The guy's puts on pounds.
I guess a couple of off seasons he showed up like ridiculously heavy. So
yeah, I was reading into that the other day about like how it's like he would lose weight one off season and then he'd come back to spring training the next and just be like 20 pounds heavier. They have to go into like panda camp, they'd call it or something.
Yeah, a trainer would take him just completely out of camp to some off-site facility, and they'd take 20 pounds off him really fast. But with all of that, San Francisco still wanted to keep him. So I don't know, but the Altuve deal though is just, that tells me that his agents panicked and they just wanted to take a safe deal, and I really think he's going to stay with the Nationals. I really do, and I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a 6 to 8 year deal worth around $250.
Man, I just that'd be such I could see that happening, but it's just it'd be insane if you were to tell me 2 years ago, say that Harper's going to get a 6 to 8 year deal, or any deal under 10 years. I would be like, you are insane, but it's believable now this past offseason.
Yeah, and even though it's like $250, it could be structured in a way that he's still making $40 million a year for the first 3 years, and then there could be opt-outs in there. So,
yeah, exactly. Although I think Harper's will definitely have an opt-out without a doubt.
Yeah, multiple opt-outs even. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if the total figure ends up being much lower than what the $400 million everyone else is assuming. Because JD Martinez, for instance, he's making like $25 million a year for like the first 3 years, and then it drops lower. Like there's only $35 million left on the books after that for those next 2 years. So it drops to like on average like 17 a year. So you could see that with Harper. Like the first 3 or 4 years will be for like 35 to 40 million, and then the number comes down drastically, and that's when he could potentially opt out.
Yeah, I mean, just with Harper, you got to think just the biggest factor in him is just going to be his age, whether or not he gets a 10-year deal, I guess. I mean, at 26, I mean, I would actually legitimately, if I was, say, this is the GM of the Yankee, or if I was Brian Cashman or whatever, Hal Steinbrenner, I mean, if I'm thinking about a 10-year deal for Harper, the only thing that would stop me from doing that, to be honest, is just the fact that I already have Stan, and it could potentially just come back to bite us in 10 years from now. But
Stanton has an opt out, I think, in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, he said I don't think he's gonna. He said he's not gonna opt out, and I don't think he'll opt out anyways. I don't think he's gonna perform well enough to get more money.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just getting at. So, I mean, this offseason will tell you guys a lot about what'll happen with Stanton, and it'll tell us, basically what we're in for with Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Who's going to be...
He's insane.
Yeah, he'll be 28, when his free agency season hits. So, so that's yeah. It'll be interesting to see how the off season plays out. But why don't we wrap with just going through the pitching matchups real quick? On Tuesday, it's Pomeranz and Severino. Now, Severino is probably going to be a Cy Young candidate. He's been absolutely filthy. I mean, he pitched a complete game his last time out, didn't he?
Yeah, first of his career, complete game shutout.
Yeah, and he's, let's see, he's got a, my computer's slow. Yeah, he's got a 2.11 ERA, 5-1 with a 2.11 right now.
Yeah, I think he's actually going to win the Cy Young this year, and that's not being, maybe a little biased, but I'd say he's a legitimate shot to actually win the Cy Young this year. And he had it last year too, but Kluber had a great second half. So
yeah,
and Sale had a little poor second half.
Yeah,
I want to ask you about that. Are you nervous at all about Sale's career September numbers towards down the stretch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hopefully there's a plan in place to kind of pace these guys. I mean, like I said, we got Johnson, Velasquez. Stephen Wright will be back, and he's a knuckleballer that could eat up innings. And
that's the thing. I mean, if you have Sale pitching, you have a big lead. There's no point to keep him in if you don't have to. Just
I don't think we're gonna see that. We're not gonna be sending him out in the the seventh inning when we're up 8-1.
Yeah, exactly. You just gotta limit the innings a little bit.
I don't think we'll see that at all. But yeah, they're gonna have to come up with some creative ways. He apparently changed up his approach in the off season where he didn't start throwing hard, like he typically does, and His velocity was down a little bit. He would pitch to contact